Look, you all know well about domain. Have you developed any website? Everybody has done it. Huh? In which language? HTML? You have created a web page. But okay, fine. If you have created a web page and that page is running on your system, but if you would like to run it at any computer or node of a network, for example, CIMAGE network, there is a connectivity from ground floor to top floor, fifth floor, the hall. And suppose your website is running at your machine and I am in the hall, top floor, fifth floor, and I would like to visit your page. In that case, what is it? There is a requirement of server machine. Server machine, or you can say your laptop can be also a small server. If you will install server operating system, then you can run a service at Windows platform, that is IIS, Internet Information Services. With the help of that service, your website will be, your website can run into the network. To run your website into the network, you can give a name. For example, you have given name www.students.edu. This is it. Here, students.edu is name of your domain. Fine. And www is just a host. But now, this is the second page. In first page, you can run your web page at your own machine. In second page, if you have IIS service, if you have domain, then you can run this web page into the network. Or you can say, I can access my website from any node in the college. But if you want to give access to your web page in a public network, means anybody who is a user of internet can open your web page. In that case, you have to register your domain, means student.com, into the public network. And for this registration, you have to contact to any domain provider. There are many organizations with providing domain. If any organization is providing you a domain, then it will depend on your, suppose that if you have given name, please provide me domain with student.com, with name student.com. Now, student.com has been already registered by some other organization or some other students of a different college. Then in that case, that domain provider will suggest you for different name, or he will ask to give different name. Getting? Because like two companies cannot use the same name, two domain cannot be with the same name. Domain should be unique in the world. Getting? Okay, fine. Finally, you have selected that student.star.student. It will be a unique. And I have used two times the star. Sorry. The student star.student. For example, now this is unique. And with this unique name, that domain provider will provide you a domain. After doing registration on DNS server. DNS server. But you are totally unaware about these things. What is going behind it? Because as you all know, DNS is a protocol that has capacity to resolve domain name to its IP address and IP address to its domain. Getting? Now, if there is an entry at DNS server, in that case, anybody who would like to access your web page, website, will hit it with the name. Then that DNS server will convert it into IP address. Finally, your web page will be accessed. But there is a matter. Where your page is, it is at your own system or at the domain provider. Now, domain provider will host this page also. Okay, fine, give me your page. But in a company takes a unique IP address, that is public IP address. I have already taught you about private IP and public IP. Like CIMAGE has also public IP address. Now, CIMAGE can develop its own page. Fine, I have developed a page. And if there is a server machine, now we have requirement of server machine. Server machine, a machine which has high configuration. At that server machine, server operating system will run, not a client operating system. And at server machine, IIS service, ADDS service, and DNS service, all these three compulsory services will run. Then a user can hit your web page from any part of the world. But mostly, what company or what a small organization do? They just contact to domain provider. Even companies also provide, domain provider company also provide facility. Okay, fine. Just give me content on paper. I will develop a page and I will launch it. This is a domain registration process. There are few sites which also provides free domain registration for 1 month, 30 days, 15 days, 6 months. This is just because of its popularity. Fine, you can register it also. Just search. Yes. Then you will get some options. Okay, fine. For 15 days, free registration. Do free registration. See what happens. Actually, that company is providing free registration because if registration will be done, free registration will be done by the 1,000 users, 1,000 companies. Approx 20 company will try to get permanent registration. It's a business. But for a student, it is good. He or she can do free registration. Fine. Okay, now come to our today's topic. Our today's topic is NAT. I have to just continue it because I have covered few points in last class. I have given you basic idea about NAT. Okay, fine. Just 1 minute. 1 minute. Now, fine. In case of NAT, stop. We have seen that we can translate inside local IP into outside global IP, or you can say simply outside IP. Why do we use NAT? We use NAT to save IP address. We use NAT to hide internal node IP address. It increases security in the network. And NATing is required to run internet because it is mostly used by the ISP. Fine. With the help of NAT, same network IP address can be used in different networks. Fine. We have discussed all these things. Now, initially, NAT was developed to translate IP of few machines. Suppose there is a server in my network and I would like to hide IP address of my server. Hello, what are you doing? Look, if we are doing something different, it's okay. It is related to this paper, but topic is not same. Then how can we? Have you two mind? No. Are you virus of 3D? No. Fine. Listen it here. I will feel proud if you'll ask some questions to me. Sardesh. There should be a question. But no question. Okay, fine, you are busy in practical. Some students are busy in doing something different. Why have you opened your laptop? This flap can be like this. Now, in the beginning, developers have given idea to translate or to hide a single IP. And that IP address can be of your server machine or some important machine. That's why the first type is static NAT. Type first static NAT. Concept is same, basic concept is same. But in case of a static NAT, first point, one inside IP is translated into one outside IP. Means, suppose there is a connection. I'm just drawing a small picture. Fine. And this is router. This is your local network. In this network, this is a server machine. Fine. Server. And it has an IP address like, for example, 192.168.1.2. Fine. And there are some more machines. These are client machines in this network. And it has IP address 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. The purpose is I have to hide this IP address in the public network. Then what will I do? I will use static NAT at this router. And in static NAT, I will just specify 192.168.1.2. This is my local IP address of my server machine. Please convert it into outsider. What is the outsider? For example, suppose ISP has 11.0.0.1 and it has given you 11.0.0.2 as a public. Then you can convert it into 11.0.0.3 in the same range. Now, fine. If any user from outside network will try to access your machine, access your server machine, then it will always get reply from 11.0.0.3. This node will be totally unaware about the actual IP of this server machine. This was the purpose of a static.
Every organization will contact with the ISP provider, or they can change their IP.
No, contact to service provider just because of this topic.
In India, there is companies that they are ISP, but in all big companies like Google, how they have contact with different countries, or they have to some international organization they are providing.
No, ISPs provide this IP address because international organizations provide IP address to a country, and the countries local ISPs provide this IP address to some organizations or some users.
They have to contact with all the countries ISP provider.
ISP provider has not to ISP, not ISP provider, ISP, because ISP itself is the service provider. ISP has to contact the government of any country. Fine. By the approval of the government, he can distribute IP address.
Google can from India and Pakistan and all countries to change the NAT, change the IP address.
Google is not. Google is a web page.
Google server.
Okay, fine. Google server. Actually, I'm not understanding your question.
Sir, any organization has their server. They have to change their IP. When you get their IP, then they have to communicate with all the ISPs in all countries.
No. There is no need. Because this ISP is providing IP address, no? This ISP is providing IP address. If you have contacted to, for example, Geo has given you an IP address. This is 11.0.0.3. Fine. In this IP, you can change. Is it clear? You should not be worried what Google will do. Google will not do anything. Suppose actually there is no concept of Google. Google is not responsible for translating, providing IP.
They also have servers.
Yes.
So if they want to duplicate their IP addresses, so they have to contact the internet service provider.
Service provider. Definitely. He will contact to the Google company will contact to the service provider.
They have to contact with USA or
no, it depends where is the Google server. Because there is not a single Google server. Multiple Google servers are available. If suppose that if Google server is in Patna, in Patliputra particularly, then Google can contact to Airtel, Google can contact to Geo, Google can contact to BS. Fine. Now, in the static NAT, this IP will be translated into this IP. Fine. But my second point is, in a static NAT, translation is done manually. Now it is a problem. Okay, sir, fine. I have to translate only one IP address, then it's okay. I can do one-line configuration, two-line configuration. But suppose there is a requirement that I have to translate my second server, third server, fourth server, or my whole network is important. Every node is important, and I have to translate every IP address, every local IP address into outside IP address. Then you have to do more manual configuration. You have to do manual configuration for every node. Suppose there are 50 nodes, you have to write command 50 times. Fine. Manual effort is more, administrative task is more. And there is one more thing that, okay, fine. In the introduction of NAT, we have studied that NAT is used to save IP address, but there is a vestige of IP address. In local network, I am using one IP address, and in outside network, I am using again one IP address. And suppose there are 50 nodes, then 50 local IP and 50 global IP. This is against the ethic of NAT, theory of NAT. Getting my point? In a static NAT, there is no concept of IP saving, and administrative task is high. Fine, it's okay. It was its initial phase. It's good. We can do it. But gradually we have seen there are too many requests from different organizations. They all are ready to pay, but they have requirement of many public IP addresses. And IPv4 has limitation. It's okay. But the second type, that is dynamic type. What is dynamic NAT? Again, it is similar to static. It has given only one solution. In dynamic NAT, we have got only one solution. That solution is we have not to do too much administrative work. We have to just configure few lines, and our router will perform this translation task automatically. Then how? Look, in dynamic NAT, many inside IP can be translated into separate outside IP. Fine. But by using ACL, there is a concept of ACL. by using ACL and a pull. Now, ACL, it is clear. Now, what is pull? Fine. Just now, I will discuss this. First, again, I'm going to draw the same diagram. This one is ISP, and there is a router. And at this router, there is a local network, and local network, there are many nodes. Again, IP concept is same, like 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. Okay. Now, suppose we have to convert all these IP addresses. These are local IP, inside IP, and we have to convert into outside IP. And this is 11.1 and this is 11. Now, first, suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 nodes in my local network. Means local IP is equal to 6. Then required 6 outside IP, public IP. Means there is no saving of IP address. Okay. I have taken 6 outside IP. Its range is 11.0.0.3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 11.0.0.8. Fine. This is the outside IP range. Okay. Now, what we will do? We will just configure. Okay, permit 192.168.1.0 network. Allow this network for translation. The permit statement can be given with the help of ACL. And now, pull. Now, pull. Pull means outside IP range. Here, pull. Pull means outside IP range. The pull will be 11.0.0.3 to 11.0.0.8. Fine. If we will define these two terms, then if those node is trying, suppose that this node is trying, or anybody from outside network is trying to hit this node 1.6, in that case, NAT will automatically translate 1.0.0.6 IP into not 7, 7 any. It can NAT can provide IP 11.0.0.3, 4, 5, 6 in, but it will be done automatically. Admin, there is no need. Admin will do configuration for every node. Means there is less administrative task. Fine. So, in case of static NAT, configuration is done manually, but in case of dynamic NAT, configuration is done with the help of ACL and pull. Fine. But in this second type, there is no saving of IP. Still, we have no concept of saving IP. Then finally, we have third type, and it is actually used. And this type is PAT. PAT means port address translation. Port address translation. Now, what is port address translation? Why there is a term port address translation? We are studying about NAT, network address translation. Now the term is port address translation, because in this type there is a concept of IP setting. See, what is the definition? It is similar to dynamic NAT, but only one outside IP is required to translate all inside IP address. Fine. Means there is a requirement of one public IP, and in this public IP, all nodes IP address will be translated. But how is it possible, sir? There will be too much confusion. Now every node will communicate with the same IP address. Then how is it possible to hit a specific machine? Or if inside machines are requesting for different websites or different nodes, how these nodes can get proper reply? Suppose that this first node is requesting for Gmail, this second node is requesting for Google, this third node is requesting for Flipkart. Then maybe if all requests are going with a single IP address, then this can get a reply of Flipkart, this can get a reply of Google, this can get a reply of Gmail. To identify every local node properly, there is a concept of port number. What is the concept? Suppose we have IP address 1.1.2, 1.3, 192.168.1, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. And all these nodes are requesting with this single IP address 11.0.0.3. Fine. NAT will create a table. And in this table, it will keep information. Okay, fine. Inside IP is 1.2 and its port number is, for example, 40, and its outside IP is 11.0.0.3. Fine. Now, second node is 1.3. Its port number is, for example, 50, and its outside IP is again 11.0.0.3. In this way, NAT will use different port number for different node. Fine. Now, this port number is also with this outside IP 40, 50, 60, 70, and so on. Now, for example, this node is requesting for Google, and this node is requesting for Flipkart. Now, request will go into the public network or to the Google server with this IP 11.0.0.3. This IP will again request for Flipkart, but when Google will reply, then reply will come to this router. There is a NAT table, and in this NAT table, there is an entry. Okay, IP is 11.0.0.3, but its port number is 40, and this 40 is related to inside node 1.2. Then reply will definitely go to this node, first node. There is no confusion.
Sir, when we type one.com, then will only the IP address will be the port number.
Yes, port number will also go to the numbers. That's why in every internet service, NAT concept is used. Fine. So this is the concept of PAT, port address transfer. Now, saving of IP address done. In case of PAT, security, translation, and saving of IP address. All concept of NAT is here. Hey, no confusion. Just I'm summarizing my points, today's lecture. In a static NAT, translation is done by manual configuration, and for every node translation, there is a requirement of separate outside IP. If this translation is too many, then there will be too many administrative tasks. To reduce this administrative task, we can use dynamic NAT. And dynamic NAT, we will use ACL and pull. ACL will just give information that which network node IP address will be translated, and pull will give the outside IP range only. But in these two cases, there is no concept of IP saving. That's why we can use third type, that is PAT. This is most suitable type. And in this type, we can translate all inside IP address into single outside IP address by using the same concept as we have used in dynamic NAT, means ACL and pull. But in dynamic NAT, in pull, we define many public IP addresses, but in case of PAT, we have to define only a single public IP. That's all. That's why PAT is also known as NAT overloading. Getting? NAT overloading. This is very important topic. In an interview, anybody can, what is NAT? Anybody can ask you, what is NAT?
Every organization has contact to ISP providers to change their IP address.
There is no need to contact. It depends on your configuration. You have to just contact to the ISP for a public IP. Okay, provide me this. NAT is done at the router. See this picture, it is very clear. I have taken a connection from ISP, and this ISP has provided me a router. And who will do configuration at this router? Okay, fine. Initially, ISP person will do some configuration at this router. But finally, local admin will manage it. Like in CIMAGE College, Jitendra sir, Aman sir, Khurshid sir are managing these routers. Yes.
Any organization have contact to the ISP, so they can change their IP address to or this can be automatically done by every organization.
It can be automatically done by every organization. We will do it also. You will see that how I can translate it. I will show this practical on real router. You will see after translation, you are also able to access internet. Internet means all networks. Fine. You will see in the practical. Fine.